Hi, my name's Bobby and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is March 20th of 2023. Very honored I get to be here today with you to share a little bit of my experience, strength, and hope. My drinking started in my early teens, about 13, and almost immediately I fell in love with alcohol and what it did for me at the time. Growing up, I was coming from a household that was breaking apart, and alcohol seemed to fill that void, that loneliness. I felt more like I fit in when I drank. As I progressed into my later teens, my alcoholism just kept progressing as well. By the time I was in my 20s, alcohol was king of my life and came before everything. I was very good at building up and tearing down, get an apartment, get a good job, and due to my drinking, I would lose that job. I would not show up, I would not pay my bills, and I was very good at fooling people to get another chance and another opportunity and tear that down as well. Into my 30s, I really struggled. I started to know there was a problem. I started to know that drinking was this problem, but I was not ready to admit step one. I was not ready to admit that I was powerless over alcohol and that it had all control of my life. In my 30s, I went back and forth with a little bit of stopping drinking, but I wasn't working a program, and it always ended up to picking up that next drink. I had no line of defense, I had no fellowship, and that led me into the gift of desperation. I came into AA in December of 2022, and I started working the steps. I got a sponsor, and I had disconnected. I stopped following the suggestions of this program. That led to a fourth DUI, that led to incarceration as a direct result of my alcoholism. During that time of my incarceration, I clung to this fellowship, I clung to the people of this program, and I clung to the steps. I had the time on my hands, so I reached out to AA in New York by sending a letter and received a letter back from Nick S., who is in charge of the corrections department. They sent me some materials, some books, and asked if they could use a piece of my story in a magazine they send out quarterly called Sharing Behind the Walls. It was during the hardest time of my life that this fellowship, that these steps kept me going. It was finding a power greater than myself, that I call God, that gave me strength. During my incarceration, I kept in touch with all of you, your letters, your phone calls. You all were my family. As a result of coming into this program, I found family in the fellowship. I found everything I was looking for. I found something to be a part of that was bigger than myself. All that loneliness and desperation started to disappear as I worked through the steps, as I worked with the sponsor, as I came to meetings daily. And I noticed over time my attitude changed. That old selfish Bobby, self-will driven, was starting to disappear. You got me involved and gave me opportunities to be involved in this club, to be a part of the picnics, to be a part of the bingos, to just come to meetings early, get to the meeting before the meeting, stay late, talk, mingle. Service work really helped me early on in my sobriety. It got me outside of my head, my thinking, and it felt good to do something for others. So I was released from prison on May 16th of 2025. Since being released, by staying connected to this program, continuing to apply the steps in my life, I'm living a life today that I could have never dreamed of. Right before my incarceration, I started college, and I've picked up right back where I left off. I have a job, and all this is possible through God. I'm not responsible for any of it. I always like to say that God nudged me into AA, and AA brought me back to God, which is the truth in my story. Today I have a relationship with God where I trust Him. And I don't just say that I trust Him, I mean it. And it was because of the hard times where I had nothing left but to trust God that strengthened my faith. Today I like to start every morning with a morning meditation, talk to God. I read the 24 hours a day. I read the daily reflections before I even jump out of my bed. As I go throughout my day, I practice the pause, and I bring anything and everything to God. When I feel that I'm struggling, I reach out to another alcoholic. I go to meetings. And because of all of this, I have picked up in school, I've got the job, I've got a relationship I never saw coming back into my life. The promises come true if you work the program. I could not be more thankful for the life I get to lead today, as my sobriety date could have been the date on my tombstone. With this, I hold a deep gratitude for the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps. For this, I am forever indebted to the program and will always be the hand of AA to help another alcoholic who suffers.